Some people use the term one-hit wonder as an insult, but for our money, if you have even a single hit song in your lifetime, you are a literal rock star, and you have secured your place in pop music history. The 90s and 2000s were, arguably, the last bastions for those supernova successes, as streaming services and digital consumption made mega hits a thing of the past. But what a past it was. So join us as the great pop culture debate straddles the 21st century and rides the pop music train and determines the best one-hit wonder of the 90s and 2000s. 44 years and my life is still trying to get up that great big hill, and that, folks, is exactly why I failed cross country in high school. True story. I'm your host, Eric Resniak. Please join me as I welcome my panel by ask, what's going on? Oh my God, Becky. She is too sexy for this podcast, but she knows how to do it, and she'll be there for you. Please welcome back Amy Pilot.
Hi, friends.
Amy, I know you only talk to me because I look like a total prostitute. And I'm okay with that. Now, Andrea Guerrero, I've been meaning to ask, are you a lover, a child, a mother, a sinner, or a saint?
Eric, I'm just a bitch.
And as we all know from Latrice Royale, bitch stands for being in total control of herself. So, join the club. And what's that smell? Oh, it's Sex and Candy and Kate Rakulia.
Who's that casting devious stares in my direction?
I don't know, but Mama, this sure feels like a dream. Dig it. Before we get to the debate, how does this work? We made a poll of more than 150 significant one-hit wonders that debuted between 1990 and 2009. To qualify, the songs had to have made to the Billboard US charts, and the acts could not have had any subsequent songs that cracked the Billboard Top 20. Roughly 50 people took the poll, we tallied their votes, ranked the picks by popularity, and added them to a bracket. Now we argue about it and insult each other for your amusement. Want to play along at home? You can. Head to greatpopculturedebate.com and go to polls and brackets. There you'll find the downloadable listener brackets for this and every episode of our little show. Do your picks match up with ours? Do you think we have the brains of a crash test dummy? Let us know by dropping a comment on this episode on our website or by yelling at us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And lastly, if you're curious about how we went from the top 32 down to the Sweet 16, become a Patreon supporter of our podcast. Our Patreons at the $5 level or higher get exclusive access to the warm-up/part ones for each episode, in which we work our way through all of round one. It's like a whole bonus episode for each topic, and it includes arguments you will not hear anywhere else. And it's only one of our great Patreon perks, so consider supporting us on Patreon today. With that out of the way, let's stop, collaborate, and listen as we kick off these debates. But by the way, this is one of those episodes where there was absolutely no way of telling what would advance. So we are flying without a script here, folks. It's very grunge, very raw, very 90s. First up, it is One Seed Bitch by Meredith Brooks versus Four Seed No Rain by Blind Melon. Amy, you wanted to talk a little bit about Blind Melon and the enduring cultural impact of B-Girl.
So that's really it for me. It's the Bumblebee Girl. The song is great, good song, really like it. But like, I have friends who were this Bumblebee Girl for Halloween, I want to say in 2010. I mean, this lived on. This was a sensation. So it went from just not just a one-hit wonder, but like a one-hit phenomenon. Like, I mean, it's a little bit wild what happened with this actually poor kid. But seems to be making her way. You know, listen, she's still in the public eye like 25 years later. So, you know, maybe she's got some fans. Maybe it worked out for her. It's a good song, and it like launched a phenomenon with the Halloween costumes. So I'm voting here for Blind Melon.
Does anyone know what happened to the actual B-Girl? Because I am. Tell me. I'm desperate to know.
I mean, she's still like living off of it a little bit. Like, she's out there dressing up like a bee 25 years later. She's very pretty. She got married. She's 38 years old. Like, She is a financial advisor. She clearly has a real job, but
okay, thank God. I was worried that she was living off of pollination skills. And listen, we're having colony collapse, and I was worried about her success. So I'm glad to know that she's a financial advisor.
No, but she's got an Instagram. I think she's still out there, like, she's our age, so she also is living the phenomenon.
She is living, yeah.
She was in an episode of Reno 911. She was in Balls of Fury. She was on an episode of ER. Let's see. And most recently, she was in 2020. She was in a TV show called I Can See Your Voice, which is an international television mystery music game show franchise that originated in South Korea. Sign me the fuck up.
And apparently, she also reprised her role as B-Girl in a Weird Al Yankovic song, Bedrock Anthem.
I love this. And you know what?
For her.
We stand an icon. I love, and listen, this is supposed to be about the song, and it is a great song. It's a great song. It's a great video. Although I would argue that in the 90s, music videos were equally as important as the song itself.
100%.
So I don't think it's out of bounds to factor B-Girl and that whole concept into this discussion. I really don't. Because if it was just the song on the radio, I don't know if it would have hit the same way that it did. But I'm here to talk about Meredith Brooks and Bitch. And I have to say, like, the 90s and the strong female singer-songwriter trope, like, that was a critical part of 90s pop music. You had Lilith Fair, and, like, Bitch, for what it was a, like, legit anthem, and still is. And I know that there's kind of been, and probably was at the time, some pushback to the song about, I'm not really sure we should be kind of celebrating the fact that we're called this slang, but I always interpret it, and obviously I'm a man, I'm on a panel with women. I always thought it was kind of like reappropriating this term and taking the power back. I don't know how you, and not that you speak for all women, but I always thought of it as a positive and kind of, I said anthemic song. I'm curious where people are coming down on this one. Amy, you're sticking with Blind Melon?
I'm sticking with the B-Girl, but yes.
Sticking with the B-Girl. An important distinction. Andrea, where are you?
This one's definitely a toss-up, because I agree with you. I think it's more about reclaiming the term bitch versus anything else. However, B-Girl, I mean, you cannot deny the impact that B-Girl has had. Also, No Rain is another great sing-along song. And I think people can probably name the artist to No Rain quicker and more accurately than they can with Bitch. I think if you were to ask a lot of people today who sang Bitch, you'll probably get either Liz Phair or Alanis Morissette before you'll get Meredith Brooks. So based on that, I'm going to go with No Rain.
Okay. Kate, where are you?
I am 100% No Rain. Like, I just also Blind Melon as like a band name is just like perfect 90. It's totally. Like just perfect 90s band name.
It's a nonsensical thing. It's like my father when Third Eye Blind was a thing, and my brother asked for Christmas asked for their CD for Christmas. He literally was at the media play being like, I don't know, Fourth Ear Deaf, whatever it is. And like, it's the 90s was about nonsensical band names and
that you would remember. Yep.
And songs that had parentheses in the titles and album titles that were like full on novellas. That was the 90s.
Yes. Yep.
So we will be advancing No Rain to round 3. Next up, it looks like the panel is unanimous in that 6 seed The Macarena by Los Del Rio is getting booted or danced right out of the competition by 2 seed Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer. No one is disagreement on there. Amy, you're with Kiss Me?
By Macarena.
Hey, Macarena. Andrea, you're with Kiss Me?
Kiss Me.
Kate?
Was I a fucking bet? Yes.
Oh my God, you took off your glasses and your ponytail and you're so beautiful now. Next up, 1 seed Mambo number 5 by Lou Bega, yet another dancey, is up against 4 seed Breakfast at Tiffany's by Deep Blue Something. Kate, you wanted to talk about Breakfast at Tiffany's, and I said I think I remember the film, but you go first.
And as I recall, we both kind of liked it. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute, there's something there. Yeah, no, it's Breakfast at Tiffany's, File Under CDs I actually got from the BMG Music Club. Yes, I got this. Deep Blue Something. Came in the mail. All of the like prongs on the inside of the CD were busted. So
Always.
So physical media, kids, it was a time. I just think that this is a really great representative kind of like up-tempo, influenced by grunge, but very much kind of 90s pop, which there isn't pop music necessarily like this now. Indie pop would probably be the closest, but this was still something else, right? It's a little harder. It's a little more rock. It has a great guitar sound. It has a fantastic lyric that people just know, even if they don't know kind of where the song is or where it came from. In my rubric, I was looking at how 90s or how aughts is a thing, like how representative is that song of a decade? How much of a one-hit wonder is it? Like, do we only know this artist from this song? Does it hold up? And my own special sauce of memories. And I just think this song, every time I hear it, I find it effortlessly charming still. It's really clever. It's a song about a breakup that's very peppy, and there's sort of a winsomeness to it that I think a lot of one-hit wonders capture something, I think, ineffable that like people relate to, that's novel, right? And that they notice it for the first time. And I wonder if for this song, it's that guitar sound, that it's just so it's a lovely little guitar lick. And I think, what about, we all kind of liked it. And she said, well, that's the one thing we've got. Like, you know, the spoken lyrics. And all that to say, I just think it's a great song that could have only happened in the 90s.
That jangly sound.
Yeah, that jangly.
Jangly. And like that's another important flavor of 90s music, jangly, right? And what other decade was that happening?
I mean, the jangle 60s? Pop like is a thing in the way that like all music now is like 1,000 different niches.
Yeah.
But this was like on a big scale back when we still had a monoculture, kids.
I remember when I had mono. That was the best diet ever. No, I'm just kidding.
You were so lucky getting that right before prom.
That's what I say about getting my tonsils out my junior year.
Yeah, I wish that had happened for me. My God. All right, so Andrea, tell us why Lou Bega is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody in the car, come on, let's ride.
It's a very long intro for this argument.
That's from memory, which should show you how indelibly this song is etched to my brain.
I do want to pose a question to the group. If you were to guess Lou Bega's ethnicity, what would you say it is?
I would guess Cuban.
Okay. Anyone else?
I couldn't even begin to guess other than Mambo. I Puerto Rican.
I pulled it up on Wikipedia, so now I am just as shocked.
So Lou Bega is German and dropped Mambo number 5 into the U.S. with so much ferocity and grace, and it was a juggernaut of a song. It was everywhere. It was a novelty song, kind of like the Thong Song and like Who Let the Dogs Out, but like it was better musically. And it was better musically because Mambo number 5 is a jazz piece by a Cuban musician, like the original song. And so Lou Bega sampled it, turned it into what it is now. I do not argue against art. I try to argue for art on this podcast. But art comes in many different shapes and forms, you know,
That's
and art
statement.
is subjective. And everyone's got different opinions on it. But this song, it just embedded itself into pop culture back in the late 90s whenever the song came out. And I believe that he also released a Disney version of the song.
There's so many versions. I was just
going to say, yes, when you actually pull this up, the genres listed range from everything from like... Mambo, Latin, pop, children's music, and you are correct. I believe it was, or I'm seeing something on Bob the Builder version.
There's a Bob the Builder version. Yes.
And what other song in this bracket has a Bob the Builder version? I just think this song was just a lot more embedded into culture than Breakfast at Tiffany's was, in a very different way. I think Breakfast at Tiffany's is a great song, but it didn't seem to break out of a certain group of people, whereas Mambo Number 5, whether you hated it or you loved it, you still heard it and you knew most of the words to it.
I will say that, Andrea, clearly you have not heard the oh God, I had a good joke there and it has completely lost it. Because you said there's no other, what other song on this has a
Bob the Builder.
Bob the Builder version. Oh, I know. You have clearly not heard the Bob the Builder version of I'm Too Sexy, which is filthy. But so forget the forgot I and just go to the punchline. Amy, where are you on this one?
I'm gonna go with Mambo Number 5. I just want to like continue to add this charted number 1 in 20 countries. Yeah, like it's a little bit wild how far it reached. And I just think, and to add to, Eric, you mentioned this earlier, it actually does have a second half of the name of the song in parentheses.
Yeah.
So it is Mambo Number 5, parentheses, a little bit of ... Oh,
and an ellipsis.
And an ellipsis.
And it had everything.
So I just think that this checks all the boxes, and I know that we'll talk about it. And while Andrea's here to argue for art, I find myself often in the one-hit wonders arguing against art. And I'm okay with that for a one-hit wonder, because I do think that this is a phenomenon. It is silly, it is fun, and it hit everyone from the Bob the Builder crowd to the jazz crowd. I mean, it really just ticks all the boxes.
I'm wondering, was this also at the point, again, this is kind of like a journey through the 90s, was this also at the point where swing was making a huge comeback?
I do think so.
People were swing dancing again.
Like the Mighty Boss Tones.
Yeah.
Big Bad Voodoo Daddy.
Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, Cherry Poppin' Daddies, Real Big Fish, etc. That was more ska.
Also, I mean, it specifically speaks to the Monica's, Erica's, Rita's, Tina's, Sandra's, Mary's, Jessica's, like, of the world. I mean, he made sure that everybody was going to feel themselves.
He was singing to you out there. But
do we know what Mambo's number 1 through 4 were about?
Can I even enjoy Mambo Number 5 if I've never experienced Mambo's number 1 through 4? These are the questions that we never asked ourselves because we were just going along with it. But that being said, Mambo Number 5 is advancing to round 3. 3-seed I'm Too Sexy by Right Said Fred is up against 2-seed Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot. This is a really tough matchup, and if you were listening to part 1, you would know that actually well, no, Baby Got Back was going to advance no matter what, but it did get a unanimous vote in the end. Whereas I believe I'm Too Sexy was initially supposed to go out, and Amy successfully convinced us that we were wrong because it is uniquely qualified as a one-hit wonder. It has the Eurotrash element that was so 90s. It is unbelievably stupid. It is a novelty song. We still cannot to this day figure out if they were being genuine with their assertion of sexiness or if it was all tongue-in-cheek and being completely subversive. Like I honestly don't know. If you watch the video, I feel like they were being legitimate, but then there's the point where literally they're walking out of the car and their shirts are ripped off. Like, it's incredible. It's like the Francis Ford Coppola of 90s Eurotrash music videos. But go and listen to the lyrics or read the lyrics of I'm Too Sexy by Right Said Fred. It is a plethora of just pointed observations about what it's like to be a human.
Sexy.
Yeah, it's too sexy. You know, you're too sexy for your cat. Poor pussycat. What is the cat going to do? What is a poor pussycat? It's an amazing. It's almost like the Odyssey, really, for sexy people. And so,
I'm too sexy for the Cyclops. What?
Yes, for the people eaters. There's so many things that we're too sexy for, and for that reason, I argue that it should advance. But it's up against the arguably the song that made Juicy Bottoms Okay to Love for mainstream America. And for that, I'm going to pass it over to Andrea to talk about Baby Got Back.
Yeah, exactly what you just said. Baby Got Back was a light during an era of low rise and thongs and heroin chic realness. And Sir Mix-a-Lot came along and said, ladies, you don't got to lose that butt. Please don't lose that butt.
That's right.
In fact,
he's begging you.
He's begging you to not lose that butt. And I think that's really what we all needed to hear at that time, was that it was okay to have a little junk in the trunk. And this is another song that I think I know every word to. I cannot say the same for I'm Too Sexy. I know most of the words, and probably out of order, because it's a lot of repetitiveness. It's a lot of I'm too sexy for blank. And I probably don't even sing it in the right order. Whereas Baby Got Back, no problems singing that song. Plus, I mean, as we all know, Nicki Minaj kind of brought this song back in the, what was it, mid 2010s-ish?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And introduced it to a whole new generation. That was very noble of her, and I thank her for that.
Yeah. And she also flipped the script, though, right? Because, and I was thinking about this when I was listening today, because Baby Got Back is a very objectifying song about women's bodies, and Anaconda is just like, I am not interested unless you have got a baby arm down there. And I celebrate that honesty. And like, we've held women to such a high standard for so long of beauty. And here's Nicki Minaj taking a song that is all about objectifying the female body, although it's like celebrating at curves, right? So it's both objectifying and celebrating. And she's like, yeah, that's all great, but like, I just want a wall of flesh coming at me. And, same girl. So, anything else to say on Baby Got Back, Andrea, or shall we put it to a vote?
I think we can put it to a vote.
Amy, where are you?
As hard as I stomped, and I am so proud that I got I'm Too Sexy to where it is today, but I'm going to have to go Baby Got Back.
Kate.
Baby Got Back. I feel like one of the things that we have used as a rubric, like on part one, go listen to part one, was there a dance to this song? There was not one dance to the song necessarily. People made up dances to this song. Like, I know multiple people, our age group, who made up dances to this song. Right? And I feel like that kind of like,
we made up dances to this song.
Right? Like, it's just, yes.
Would we have had twerking without Baby Got Back?
It's a good question.
Would we have Kim Kardashian without Baby Got Back?
Well, now you're going to put me in
merit. Yeah.
Jennifer Lopez, J-Lo.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Who he says it was written apparently for.
Really?
In 2014, according to TMZ, Sir Mix-a-Lot said it was Jennifer Lopez's moves as a fly girl on the 1990s show In Living Color that inspired him to write Baby Got Back.
I love that.
That's incredible.
Inspiring future challenges. That's incredible. We love
I want to add one more fun fact to this little matchup right here. I'm Too Sexy peaked at number 2 because it was behind Bryan Adams' Everything I Do. So think about how far it got. It crushed everything else. The only thing it couldn't overcome was Bryan Adams. We can understand. Understandably. Baby Got Back also peaked at number 2, and it was second to Boys to Men, End of the Road.
Oh, wow.
So these are like some ridiculous songs that almost beat out juggernauts. I mean,
Well, you have it there. And Baby Got Back is itself a juggernaut as it is moving forward into round 3. Next, the panel is unanimous in its decision to move forward. 1 seed, Groove Is in the Heart by Delight. And it was up against Barbie Girl by Aqua. We really debated long and hard on Aqua versus, what was it up against?
The Four Non-Blondes.
Four Non-Blondes, what's up? Ugh. And it was a tie. And the only reason Aqua advanced was because it was a slightly higher seed. I'm curious if it was Delight versus Four Non-Blondes, who would have voted for Four Non-Blondes here?
Me.
I would have. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm.
This is why voting is important, ladies and gentlemen.
Make sure you're registered to vote.
Exactly. And take our poll. They're on our website, greatpopculturedebate.com. Go to polls and brackets and you'll find them there. So we are
Can I
advancing.
just say a word for Barbie Girl for a moment?
Yes, please.
You know, this again is like a ridiculous thing that made it into pop culture. That someone somewhere had an idea and they were like, well, this will never fly. And guess what? It did. And it was amazing. And my kids sing it. And it's going to have a comeback when the Ryan Gosling movie comes out. That's terrible that I just said it was the Ryan Gosling movie.
Yeah.
But he's the perfect Ken. But this is, it's absurd. And like, I do love that there is a layer of absurdity through the One Hit Wonders, because that is the 90s.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that completely. And I'm glad you said that, because it was an important song. Well, important is probably not the correct word there.
It was a popular song.
It was a song that people listened to. That's how we would describe it.
It's also interesting to me. I feel like it was just enough on the cusp of like mega IP wars. Like, did they have to license Barbie?
My recollection at the time was that Mattel did not initially sign off on this, and there was some legal discussions around it, but I think it was enough where they were like, Barbie's just a name. Yes, the name Barbie is TM'd, but and Ken is just a name. I don't think you can make the argument that using names Barbie and Ken are enough for lawsuits, but I do believe Mattel at least did launch some type of an IP protection suit.
They kind of stepped to them, yeah.
Next up, it's 3-seed Torn by Natalie Imbruglia versus 2-seed Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. We are not unanimous on this, and I'm going to have Andrea talk about Torn first.
I mean, who in 2022 is not all out of faith and cold and shamed, lying naked on their bathroom floor? I mean, this song...
I'm there right now.
We're all there. I mean, this song is just... I feel like it's a woman's anthem of heartbreak. It is just a perfect representation of that. And it's so sad that Natalie didn't have any more hits, because I feel like she probably really wrote some great stuff. Granted, I haven't listened to anything else that she's written or done, but I think with a song like Torn, there was probably a lot of good stuff in her catalog that we didn't get to experience, and that's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, this was that time period where, like, if you wanted to have a song, you either bought the single, which you didn't want because then it was taking up space in your CD case, or you bought the whole album. And I will say, for some reason, I never got Natalie Imbruglia's full album, even though I love this song. Go ahead, Amy.
I was just going to say, don't feel too badly for her. My understanding is she's actually an Australian actress.
Yeah, she was on Neighbors for sure. I believe she took like the Kylie Minogue route. She just didn't become Kylie.
Right. So, like, I mean, sad, but also she's not desolate. She's not Right Said Fred.
Where is Right Said? Are you Right Said now, Fred? Are you wrong?
Right Said Fred is actually like mixing this in the background somewhere.
Exactly. That is Red Said Fred right now. But all right. So does anybody else want to talk about Bittersweet Symphony, or is this mine to take? I think it's mine.
Take it. It's yours. It's yours. Yeah.
So this is one of those songs that I do think has a kind of, it is quintessentially 90s. As we discussed previously, you cannot hear the song without thinking of the final scene of Cruel Intentions, where Sarah Michelle Gellar's wonderful character gets busted for having a necklace full of cocaine in her rosary and is kicked out of the very prestigious school, while Reese Witherspoon is the goody two-shoes girl and drives off into the sunset, very pleased with herself for being a narc. But it is one of those quintessential 90s moments that 90s kids kind of
Yes.
gravitate towards, although I think it's like right on the cusp of 90s 2000s. It is also just a really great song. Like it's melodic, it's catchy. There's something about it. We talked in the first one about how The Freshman by the Verve Pipe, not the same band, is this ponderous and like fake intellectual kind of version, and like I don't get that from this. Yes, it's trying to make a statement about, you know, the reality of being a modern person, but it doesn't feel like it's trying too hard, and I do think it's a very successful song. To me, this is a toss-up. I think both of them are really great songs. They both were unequivocally one-hit wonders that were smash hits. I don't think either one of them is iconic in the same way that other songs on this bracket are. So, Amy, where are you on this?
Bittersweet Symphony, but like this is one of those moments where I wish we could be like, well, I'd like to bring I'm Too Sexy over from the other side of the bracket and put it over here, because that to me is iconic and neither of these stands out. But Cruel Intentions does take this one over for me.
Kate, where are you?
Definitely Bittersweet Symphony. I love this song. As I discussed or mentioned in the first half of this episode, this was the original title of my second book, which is about teenage musicians. And I just think in the way that this is less ponderous and a little more open-ended, like the lyrics are really interesting. Trying to make ends meet, you're a slave to money, then you die. Like there's something about that felt very like emo revelatory to me in whatever 2000 or something when this came out, but it's such a beautiful kind of uplifting sort of hopeful driving song. I think that's kind of where its power comes from.
We didn't even realize how true those lyrics were when we were in the 90s.
Exactly. We were so young. I'll take you down the only road I've ever been down. You know, the one that takes you to the places where all the veins meet. Yeah.
All right. Well,
it's good. It's good.
It is. It's a great song. We are advancing 2-seed Bittersweet Symphony. So next up, it's 1-seed Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba versus 5-seed Love Fool by the Cardigans. Amy, you wanted to speak on Love Fool.
This, to me, comes back also to the movie. So, you know, we didn't get to talk about it, I don't think, too much here about Kiss Me, Sixpence None the Richer. She's all that. Bittersweet Symphony, for me, Cruel Intentions. This is Romeo and Juliet, and like, to me, this was just such a moment in time. And I don't know, that's why it does it for me. With that said, Tub Thumping, Chumbawamba is unique and has that Barbie girl like ridiculousness. So I often find myself arguing against the art in this bracket, in this episode. This is the one time I will argue for the better song, because I don't think anybody here is going to say that Tub Thumping is a great ballad. But I think that Love Fool is.
Yeah, I do not think that Tub Thumping is a good song. However, I think it is a well-constructed song in that it is like almost genetically engineered to be catchy in a way that I'm not even sure how it happened. But Andrew, you want to talk about Tub Thumping and Chumbawamba?
Is that a euphemism for something that I'm not aware of? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we talked about in part one, Tub Thumping is just a song that stands alone. Chumbawamba stands alone. Two very unique things. We don't know what a Chumbawamba is, who a Chumbawamba is, or anything. And same with Tub Thumping. I mean, like, I'm looking at the lyrics again for Tub Thumping, and I don't understand where the title came from based on the lyrics. However, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You are never going to keep me down. I mean, what an anthem of a song when that is like 95% of the lyrics of the song. You know, you sing this song and you feel so empowered and ready to face the world. Plus you get a whiskey drink and a vodka drink and a lager drink and a cider drink. And Danny Boy is there. I mean, it's it's got everything. Granted, I do think that Love Fool is the better song technically. However, I think Tub Thumping is more iconic out of the two songs. it is, again, one of those songs that is just so ridiculous and so stupid, but so fun. And this is, Amy and I are switching right now. She's arguing for the art, and I'm arguing against the art. I mean, based on the album cover alone for Chumbawamba's Tub Thumping album, like, how can you say no to that?
Yeah, I have to say, like, for me, you brought up a great point. Like, what is this song about? I always interpret it as a fight song, where it's Tub Thumping is like, you know, you're in an Irish or a Scottish bar, and it's the people that are like making loud noises to get riled up for some type of a fight, and the tub is like the thump that they're banging on. That's always what I thought it was, but maybe I'm wrong. You also mentioned it has Danny Boy. It also has fucking Evita in there. Don't Cry for Me, Next Door Neighbor. Like, that's amazing. And I don't think this would have been in parallel to Madonna's Evita film, but maybe. No. I don't remember.
Yeah. And even at the beginning of the song, they sing, "We'll be singing, I get knocked down, but I get up again." So you're already invited into this song.
Yeah. It always just felt like a folk song to me, that people who are kind of average, ordinary people who get kicked around by life, because as we pointed out previously, this band is actually like an anarchist punk band, and they had this like upbeat thing that, you know, Wall Street bros would be pounding beers to. And meanwhile, like, I think it was really for like the average, ordinary Joe raging against the machine. But the machine loved it. So there you go. Kate, where are you on this?
You know, I love Fool. I love Fool. I think, like you said, Andrea, it is technically the better pop song. The production's incredible. The fact that it came from Baz Luhrmann's William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, right? Like, that is extremely points for 90s. And like, I personally absolutely adore this song. The first Band on the Moon, the Cardigans album, is actually tremendous. It's really terrific. But in terms of like one hit wonders, Tub Thumping is really hard to argue against. I'm going to go to Tub Thumping. I'm coming around to the arguing against the art. Like, what's happening?
Well, we're all losing our taste.
It's okay. I'm going to go back on brand and also argue against the art. Because Chumbawamba also makes me think of Chupa Chups, which are very lollipops.
Yeah, very 90s, very 90s. I'm also voting for Tub Thumping, so that means it is unanimously going on to round 3. And finally, in round 2, 3-seed Closing Time by Semisonic is up against 7-seed You Gotta Be by Des'ree. Closing Time was actually a unanimous vote in round 1, so we haven't talked about it. Kate, do you want to talk a little bit about why you like this song? And then Andrea, you want to go with Des'ree here?
So Closing Time came out in the spring of 1998. I graduated in the spring of 1998 from high school. So it is very like my exact feelings of like closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Subtext, thank God. Like, so ready to be out of here. But it's a great song. Dan Wilson, who is the lead singer, songwriter, has gone on to have a very like incredible career writing for the Dixies or the Chicks now. Who else has he written for? He's written for a ton of people. But that song is just a juggernaut, the kind of right song, right place. It is our generation's last dance, right? Like, it's what they play to get people. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And if anyone has ever listened to Song Exploder, do you know Song Exploder? It's another podcast. Where they ask musicians to kind of do a deep dive about like what a song is actually about. And the story behind Closing Time, the actual story behind it, is really incredible. He was writing the song when his partner was pregnant and giving birth. And when their child was born, I'm going to get the details mixed up because it's been a while, but basically it was a very difficult birth and they didn't know whether or not the baby was going to be okay. And she's okay. She's, I believe, a teenager now, maybe. And that's what he was writing the song when his partner was pregnant. And that's why this room won't be open till your brothers or your sisters come. Like, that's what it's about. It's incredible. It's just a really great episode. And it really, like, this song has a very deep emotion in it that nonetheless, like, it doesn't have to be about that, right? Like, people still feel kind of what that sense of transition and change is about. And I think that's why, in addition to being catchy, right, and like a good tune, I think that's why it captured a moment and is the one-hit wonder that it is.
That is so interesting. And
right.
I think I see where this is going. Before we get there, I want Andrea to talk about You Gotta Be by Desiree.
I can't now.
I know.
Snap story. Jesus.
I know.
This was more of a vote against Closing Time than it was for You Gotta Be. But I will say, the 90s and early 2000s, we really started to see a resurgence of, girl power, and like, the hippie font with like the little flowers with it. Those are like all around the Delia magazines, and all of that. And You Gotta Be is just a very confident song. It's a very uplifting song. It's empowering. It's everything that I feel like that generation needed at the time, was this message to be strong, but also be who you are. That being said, I mean, Semisonic's Closing Time, I don't think I can walk into a grocery store and not hear that song playing over the grocery store radio. And I can't say the same for You Gotta Be. But I did just want to recognize how unique that song was for that time.
Fair. And I do wonder if the grocery stores are playing that to get people out of their goddamn store. Amy, where are you on this one?
This is a tough one. I don't have like a really strong, but I don't have a really strong opinion, but Closing Time.
Yeah, I'm voting for Closing Time too. I do think it is more resonant with pop culture than You Gotta Be. Overall, I will point out that where I saw this going is we now have Tub Thumping versus Closing Time the next round, which is so chaotic, and I kind of love it. But we will get to that. With that said, that is the end of round 2. We are going to take a quick break to get some buns, Huns, and we will be right back after these messages. And we are back for round 3 of our best one-hit wonders of the 90s and 2000s debate. We determined that none of us were, in fact, too sexy for this episode, so we are continuing on into the Elite 8. But before that, we want to ask my panel, how can people find you on social media, Amy?
So it is Amy Pilot on Instagram if you want to see cute pictures. But I actually really like to encourage people to come and take some 90s rides with me on Peloton at Amy Spins 83.
I love that. And I am jealous, and I really need to get onto that Peloton thing if I had the space in my apartment. So thank you, Amy.
Cody Rigsby just did a whole boy band ride.
Ooh, love that. Andrea, how about yourself?
You can find me at www.twitter.com@DreSouffle.
Thank you for giving the full URL. That was very helpful.
It's very important.
Yes, the World Wide Web, I hear, is going to take the world by storm. So thank you. Kate, what about you?
So I am occasionally on Twitter at Kate Rakulia, but if you want to see cute pictures of my cats, I am at Gomez Rack on Instagram.
Great. And you can find me at Eric Rezniak. That's ERIC, REZ as in zebra, S as in snake, N as in Nancy, YAK on Twitter and Instagram. Or you can message at Great Pop Culture Debate on Insta or at culture_debate on Twitter. We also have, God help us, added TikTok. So follow at Great Pop Culture Debate on there. I know. No, but wait. We're going to be offering our hot takes on the current movies, music, TV, film. So we're going to do our little short reviews on there. Have we started doing it as I film this? No, we have not.
Oh my goodness.
We will be doing it. And I encourage all of my panelists to make their own little videos of their whatever they're listening to, watching that they love or hate. And we will put it up on our TikTok. So look at us moving head forward into 2015.
We are all way too old for that platform.
I know. And here we are. So let's move on to round 3 so I can get back to touching myself. First up, it is No Rain by Blind Melon versus Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer. We're going to go around the horn. Andrea, where are you on this one?
Kiss Me by Sixpence.
Amy.
Kiss Me.
Kate.
No Rain forever.
Okay. Do you want to explain why you're voting for No Rain?
I mean, I think that this is purely the Kate generational part, right? Like Sixpence None the Richer came out when I was in college. It was everywhere. I liked it, but like No Rain as a song still kind of has something to say to me, and I feel like it was more expansive when I encountered it of an idea of like what a song could be, and it's just like I just really love it. I like it more than I like Kiss Me. Period.
Really? Have you listened to Kiss Me? Have you listened to Kiss Me lately?
Yeah, it's fine.
Interesting. I genuinely think Kiss Me is a great song.
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly executed, and I think could you even be a romantic comedy or a show about teenagers in the 1990s
You could not.
and not have Kiss Me somewhere on your soundtrack? Whereas Blind Melon, it certainly had a moment. I'm not going to argue that earlier in the 90s. I think it's more like grunge adjacent, so I'm glad that it's made it as far as it has.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about the 90s and one-hit wonders that were cultural juggernauts, to me, it is Kiss Me as well. So that's 3 for Kiss Me, and it will be advancing to the final 4. Is that correct? Are we there?
Yeah.
We're there.
Me and B Girl are just going to go run out in the field and
Tap
like,
dance.
have a great time.
Tap dance
with
to your
our
delight.
all our B friends.
I love it. Mambo number 5 by Lou Bega versus Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot. Love this matchup. I'm going to start with Amy. What do you think?
I just want to say that I'm sad about this matchup because, like, my initial personal bracket had a lot more of this kind of like ridiculousness. So here I have to go Baby Got Back, but Mambo number 5 had a really good run here, and I think it's iconic and it's fabulous and it's wonderful, and I'm happy that it's here with us in the final 8.
Agreed. Kate.
Baby Got Back. I also had a personal relationship with this song in 1992 through like not even trying. Like I just was in the water.
It was again omnipresent. Andrea.
While I had a personal relationship with Mambo number 5, I am going to go with Baby Got Back.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a clean sweep. It does occur to me that the Humpty Dance, which I kind of put in the same thing, also not on this bracket, but I think that of all of those songs that were about essentially banging it out, I do think that Baby Got Back is kind of like the Picasso of all of those, and it's hanging in the pop culture Louvre, if you will. Next up, it is Groove Is in the Heart by D Light versus Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. This is one where I don't actually think either one of these deserve to be in the final 4.
Nope.
If we're being honest, but I'm gonna start with Kate.
So I feel like we didn't even talk about Groove Is in the Heart.
We haven't really.
I'm just gonna like briefly. It is the sound of summer 1990. It's early 90s, right? Like it is in its 90s points. It gets points for being lots of samples and lots of recombinations. There's like a Herbie Hancock sample in there. There's a Billy Preston sample in there. The rap is Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest, which I did not know he did that. Bootsy Collins has like a vocal track in it. It is pure 90s disco house funk, and it still sounds good. And I did actually, so my second book is set in the 90s, and there is like a dig there's like an a cappella group that like they're beatboxing to Groove Is in the Heart, and like the character's like, oh God, what's worse than these guys beatboxing Groove Is in the Heart. Like, but like secretly I love it. So it's a great song. It's a true one-hit wonder. I feel like this is kind of representing that sort of like funk soul one-hit wonder, like your Stereo MCs connected, kind of like that. But I'm going to personally vote for Bittersweet Symphony because I agree both of these neither of these are juggernauts to me, but like I like Bittersweet Symphony better.
I like almost want to abstain. I just don't like. I agree. I just don't think that these two belong here. When there were so many other things that got knocked out. I mean, we lost Ice Ice Baby like hours ago.
Hours.
We've been here for days. And then strewn all around us are comrades. Right said Fred.
I know.
Los Del Rio. You have to make a pick. You have to make
a pick. I know. And we're talking about
Delight. Macy Gray and the 32.
Yeah, we kicked her out. Yeah.
I don't know. Fine. Bittersweet Symphony.
Okay.
It's purely because of the Coke and Sarah
Yes,
Michelle
it's
Gellar.
like only because it gave us Reese Witherspoon and Ryan Felipe's short-lived marriage and beautiful children.
Yes, they are beautiful children. Andrea.
I'm gonna go with Bittersweet Symphony, even though I like Groove is in the Heart better as a song. But the reason why I'm gonna go with Bittersweet is because Groove is in the Heart came out in 1990, and it almost feels more 80s than anything else.
It's a transitional song.
It is. It's a transitional song, and I just don't think it fits very well with the rest of the bracket. It feels very out of place among the top 8, let alone the final 4. So Bittersweet Symphony.
That's so interesting because I actually think it is incredibly 90s. Yes, it came out in 1990, but I think it was actually very forward thinking, even though it was so referential to stuff from the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Like I that was actually my argument is like in all of its sampling, it actually, if anything, is almost futuristic for its time.
It does have a futuristic sort of sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that video is like quintessentially 90s with like, I can see the hyper saturated greens. Mm-hmm. And yes, she's wearing like the 70s clothes, but it's still
that was the 90s though.
Yeah. It was the 90s referencing the 70s, and it was very clearly doing that. But regardless, it doesn't matter. Bittersweet Symphony is continuing to the final 4. I personally would have picked for Delight, but that's just for me. Now, this is a tough one. It's Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba versus Closing Time by Semisonic. You have one that has this really sad story, and it's very like Kate. The thing that really resonated with me when you were discussing this in the last round was this is our generation's version of Last Dance, and my immediate thought was, how fucking sad is that? Because like Last Dance is okay. Guess what, hookers? The lights are about to come in, so you better get yourself a piece of ass right now, or else you are busted. And this is okay, drunks. Everyone's miserable. It's the sample sale. Get what's left. Like that's.
I know who I want to take me home.
Yeah, like it's. How sad. And one of the things I always think about in the 90s is like everyone was so depressed and miserable in the 90s. And now I look back on it, I was like, we never knew how good we had it. Like we really didn't.
We really didn't.
But everyone was miserable in the 90s. And that is frankly emblematic of Closing Time by Semisonic. I'm still voting for Chumbawamba here because that is a quintessential 90s one-hit wonder. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Closing Time is more like an encapsulation of the vibe of the 90s, but that's not what I think of as a one-hit wonder. A one-hit wonder should be disposable, and nothing is more disposable than Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. Amy, where are you?
I totally agree with that. I'm, again, sad that we lost Montel Jordan, and this is how we do it to Chumbawamba earlier, but I guess this is almost like if that was going to take out my song, then I might as well push this forward. I do think that I do think that Closing Time is like, even though I don't know anything else that they necessarily did, I think it's too good to be here. So Chumbawamba, Tub Thumping, because when else could that have been a hit?
Yeah, exactly. Andrea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Tub Thumping. I moonlight as a bartender, and at least once a week when we close and do last call, some drunk asshole singing Closing Time by Semisonic, and I can't do it. I can't. So Tub Thumping.
Yeah, God. Kate.
I really I'm very personally fond of Closing Time, but I have been swayed by the energy, and I'm gonna go with chub thumping.
Chub thumping. Now that 100% is a gay euphemism, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Before we get to the final four and Closing Time, we are going to take one more quick break. We'll be right back after these messages. And we are back with our final four of the best one-hit wonders of the 90s and 2000s. It is Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer versus Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot, and Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve versus Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. I can't tell you if this is what I thought we were going to have, because this one has been wild. It has been chaotic, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So let's jump in. Kiss Me versus Baby Got Back. Amy Pilot, where are you voting?
Baby Got Back.
Andrea Guerrero, where are you voting?
In my personal bracket, I have Kiss Me going all of the way. I'm going to go down with that ship and stick with Kiss Me.
Okay. Kate Reculia.
I think I got to give it to Baby Got Back.
I am also giving it to Baby Got Back.
That's fair.
For, Kiss Me was quintessential for the rom-coms of the 90s. Baby Got Back is still being felt. There's reverberations in our culture to this day, because now we all want an ample booty. You know, you can do side bends and sit-ups, but please do not
Please don't lose that butt.
Please don't do it. So this was a rallying call that is still being answered 30 years later. God bless that man. Whereas Kiss Me, wonderful, sweet, got, Rachel Lee Cook on the floor with Freddie Prinze Jr. We love it. Not a Baby Got Back. Bittersweet Symphony versus Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. Kate Reculia, where are you coming down?
I do love Bittersweet Symphony, but in the Thunderdome for Best One Hit Wonder, they get knocked down, but they get up again. It has to be Tub Thumping. Oh my! Okay, I said it right that time.
You did it. Andrea.
Tub Thumping.
Amy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tub Thumping.
So we have an almost unanimous final two of Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot and Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. I'm going to start with Andrea.
No. Oh boy, this is not the matchup I envisioned.
Nope.
Nor I.
But I'm not mad about it at all. It feels right still. I think I'm gonna go with Tub Thumping.
Okay. Amy?
So I had Baby Got Back as my all the way in my own bracket. And can I give you a couple of reasons why?
Yes, I would love to hear it.
Okay, so this is the song that keeps coming back. Like, it is the one-hit wonder of the 90s, but I don't like to admit that the 90s were 30 plus years ago, but for 30 plus years, this song just keeps making its way back. So, like, you think about all these different defining things in pop culture. So, like, Ross and Rachel singing to their baby in Friends. He sings Baby Got Back, and it's the one thing that makes baby Emma laugh. Like, it's like a ridiculous thing, but right? Like, it just keeps coming back. So there was like a group of people who I'm sure knew Baby Got Back, but then it was there again. It was in Glee. They did this whole thing in Glee with it. It's now in like the Sing movies. I mean, it's just, it keeps coming back. And then we talked about it already. Nicki Minaj and I don't know. It just, to me, this is the one hit wonder that has like a life of its own. It's to me, this is the one hit wonder of all one hit wonders. Commercials, everything. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was a Burger King commercial at some point. Like, I mean, it's crazy what it's done. So to me, this is it. And don't get me wrong, the fact that Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba is a thing is in itself pretty amazing.
Yeah, and like you were mentioning, there's probably a Burger King ad. I feel like I have seen so many ads that have used Baby Got Back over the years, which is so remarkable because it's a song about fat butts, and yet somehow it has been co-opted to sell, like, I don't know, macaroni and cheese. Although I guess that does make sense. But like seriously, like it is, you can, it's a utility belt of one-hit wonders. Kate, where are you?
I have to give it to Baby Got Back in terms of like cultural longevity, impact. Yeah. Yep. I remembered like there was something where like someone had a single of it and it was like a scandalo that they had it. And like, I feel like the little picture of the single, he's like standing on what is clearly like a butt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It looks like two mountains. Like he's like looking over the horizon, but it's a butt.
It's a butt.
It's a butt. Just say no to crack. But
this is all coming down to butts.
I that's the 90s.
Yep.
And it's funny, going into this battle, I was thinking, well, it's going to be Tub Thumping because it was like just everywhere at the time. It was so omnipresent. But I think that Amy makes a great point that in the 90s, Tub Thumping was everywhere. Not that Baby Got Back wasn't, but Baby Got Back is still culturally relevant 30 plus years after and keeps coming back. That means there's something about that, right? There's something very unique about it. And I do think it is catchy in a way. I mean, Tub Thumping is too, but like, you can't escape Baby Got Back even now. It was huge then. It's huge now. We like big butts and we cannot deny. So there you have it, folks. Our pick for the best one-hit wonder of the 90s and 2000s is Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot. Do you agree? Do you think we should have joined Michelle, Tamika, and Tanya and rode that train right out of town? Tell us how you really feel by leaving a comment on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. While you're there, make sure that you subscribe and follow the podcast so you can hear about what new debates are coming soon, vote in open polls, and even decide which topics we tackle next. By the way, if you want some of the same treatment for this best one-hit wonders of the 70s and 80s, you are in luck. We already recorded that episode back in season 4, and you can find it on your podcast platform of choice. Make sure to check out the playlists on Spotify for these episodes. You can find those in the bonus section at greatpopculturedebate.com. I want to say thank you to my panel. The Venga bus is coming to pick us up any minute, and thank you for listening. If you loved what you heard, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can get even more exclusive content and you get episodes a whole day early. We hope you have a good one, and remember, everyone is entitled to their wrong opinions.